Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl, Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets, where we decode the art and science of building a thriving coaching business. Let's see what's in store today with none other than the legend himself, Karl, Bryan, and, of course, yours truly, the Road Dog. Shoots, welcome back.
Yo, Road Dog. How's it going, man?
Well, you know, it's starting to feel like all is right in the world again, Shoots, isn't it? It's not that we want to timestamp things, but watching the Kansas City Chiefs lose was just, so beautiful.
Yeah. Turnovers, man. Turnovers.
It was.
Hey, I wrote a daily email today, and it was just like Jaden Hurts, although I was going for Kansas City, to be clear. But Jaden Hurts, he got beat 3 years ago, and you could imagine, man, he dug in and he played that game. I think the entire team played like they were possessed. So there you go. That was but they smoked them, bud. They smoked them.
Yeah, they made it look somewhat respectable at the end, but it was interesting. I think the highlight for me was seeing Tom Brady's watch. Did you see that thing?
His watch?
Yeah.
No, I didn't see it. What is it?
Oh, dude, it's all over the internet right now. It's the watch is valued at like $750,000, and it was unreal. Everyone's talking about Tom Brady's watch. It's pretty funny.
Well, here's what I wrote. So I thank you, Travis Kelce, specifically. So my 11-year-old daughter watched the Super Bowl with me again, kinda. And why did she watch? Because she's looking for Taylor Swift. And then did you see Taylor Swift get booed?
Yeah, I sure did.
Yep. So what I wrote in my daily email is that Taylor Swift would have passed this on to my daughter. Don't worry your pretty little mind. People throw rocks at things that shine. Taylor Swift. So there you go. I don't think she cares.
No, that was it's interesting too, because obviously, people are gonna hate, and that's fine. My daughter watched as well because she's a huge Taylor Swift fan, and it's bringing more people, I guess, to the game. I don't know if it's actually bringing them to the game of football, but very, very interesting stuff. I obviously, being in Canada, I did not get to see any of the great commercials.
So they were good.
Were they good?
They were good. There was one with Matthew McConaughey. I can't remember who it was, but it was awesome. It was awesome.
There you go.
Anywho, but I don't think Taylor Swift's used to getting booed. By the look on her face, she's like, "What is that me?" And then she realized it's her. She's like, "Oh my gosh, pretty bad."
Yeah, well, considering the amount of stadiums and everything else she sold out over the past couple of years, I guess, and everything else, it's well, who knows? Anyways, good for her and good for the NFL, and it was a bit of a snooze fest, but I think a snooze fest that a lot of people like myself really enjoyed, because I was fully expecting it to be like, oh, here we go again. Here's a couple of bad calls, and next thing you know, it's off to the races. But speaking of convincing, the people like me that the NFL was rigged, how about this first segue? Can you give me, just pivot, can you give me your best argument to convince a business coaching client to invest?
Oh, there you go. I think that's out. That's a good idea. I can tell you that. Finance is the language of the elite. Let's start with that. I don't know. Like if you had $1 in 1975 and kept it, it'd be about 5 cents today. So if you took that $1 and you invested it in 1975, real estate, stock market, et cetera, it'd be about $5. So I don't know, would your client rather 5 cents or $5? And by the way, that's inflation 101. Inflation is a tax. The poor, and I don't know the poor, but inflation is a tax the poor pay to the rich, right? Sounds a little harsh and dramatic, but not far wrong. And then, by the way, what do they invest in? Stocks, bonds, real estate, futures, options, currencies, CDs, crypto has to be added nowadays. Bottom line, yeah, they should invest, and you should be directing them to that. Not financial advice, by the way. I speak to somebody far smarter than I. I'll just tell you this, without needing to meet your coaching client, their goal is not to be rich or wealthy, despite the fact that they'll tell you that almost directly. But their goal is what? Their goal is to be free. So investing is their path to freedom. And then I would just decide, do I want to direct them to freedom? And like I said, finance is the language of the elite, right? Here's the way it's explained to me. The financial world is a 10-year Ferris wheel. It goes up for 8.5 years, 8.5 years. And then it goes down for 1.5, right? So 80% make it while the Ferris wheel goes up, and then they give it all back as the Ferris wheel comes down, right? They buy high and then sell low with ridiculous predictability. I always say you can get lucky and make it. You can't get lucky and keep it. Translation, invest. And by the way, what I didn't say, investing in your own company, investing in your own personal development, I don't think that's where the question's coming from, but that absolutely should be factored. But yeah, I would be encouraging, again, we're going to make a lot of money. I want to paint a big picture for my coaching client, bigger than they could ever imagine for themselves. And part of that is that you're going to start making a lot of money. You're going to have high margins. You're going to be putting a lot of money away. Well, are we going to take that money? Yes. A lot of it is going to be invested back into your company, into staff and, CapEx and, your machinery and your tools and your stuff, right? Investing it back. But they should absolutely be, leaving, taking some and investing it. And by the way, before they invest, they got to learn the rules. Those that you played football and you didn't know the rules, I'm going to crush you. If you want to invest and you want to invest properly, you got to take a step backwards to take multiple forwards. You need to learn the rules. But again, if you like the idea of freedom, if your coaching client likes the idea of a path to freedom, spend the time to learn the rules. So that's my thought sheets.
I got to say this, while we may not be, giving financial advice, and you may not be qualified to do that, you are qualified to give your Zen advice. So why don't we pivot to that little thought of the day?
Oh, Lordy, I really need to prepare for these shoots. I think we say two things every episode. We don't want to timestamp this, and then we do. And then you ask me the Zen thought, and then I'm lost. I don't know. Look, top of mind. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I'll continue to say it because I think it's really important. Loneliness is an epidemic, right? Like Zuckerberg, right? Mark Zuckerberg is a computer nerd who blogged for fun before you and I knew what blogging was, right? He's the most, non-social human to walk the planet. And we've organically placed him in charge of our social lives, right? Like we now socialize like Zuckerberg did in his dorm room in Harvard. We all stare at a computer all day, reading other people's mini blogs on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and the other. And we communicate, socialize on a social media platform and a computer that we carry around in our damn pocket, right? It's kind of scary, kind of profound, actually, but maybe kind of scary. But loneliness is an epidemic, right? So Facebook, and by the way, how do they do that? Facebook, Zuckerberg very smartly sold us connection. The problem is what fast food is to nutrition, social media is the connection, right? So when you eat fast food, you actually end up hungrier and you get no nutritional value. Well, the solution then, and social media is the same as that, whereby you actually get a little bit of connection, but you actually leave needing more because you didn't actually satisfy what you really need to connect. And then if you were to ask me, what's the solution? Get in a room with people that you want to connect with maybe a way of wording that is get in a room with people with a better life than you, or a life that you would like to have, and connect with them, right? And the bottom line to all that, I don't know how Zen this is. I think it's the opposite, as much of the time it is. But the bottom line, Zuckerberg sold us on connection, right? What did Apple sell us on, or what do they sell us on? Innovation, right? Not phones, innovation. Rolex, they sell us on status, not watches. Nike, what are they selling? What are they selling us on? Motivation, right? Not shoes, motivation. Tesla and Elon Musk, he's selling you on the future. I mean, Elon Musk right now, what's he selling us on? And Twitter, X, he's selling us on free speech, right? So Zuckerberg sold us on connection, but again, he sold us the fast food version, and you got to control that. And so maybe like the best thing a coach can sell their client on is their big, monstrous, profitable future, right? And without the constant time for money quagmire, right? I don't need to meet them to know that that's a battle that they fight, and that they would like to remove themselves from. Realistic, in some cases, yeses, in some cases, no. Depend on business model, industry, talents, etc. So maybe my Zen thought, though, get in rooms with humans. And by the way, a noble pursuit. Help business owners connect face-to-face and share ideas, mastermind in a cool environment. Where is that environment? Like, that might be the chamber, that might be at the fancy hotel, that might be at the golf course, might be in your own living room, by the way, which I think is totally fine and probably has some serious advantages to it. But then stop staring at your phone and watching other people live their lives on social media via blog while you organically compare yourself, right? Comparison is the thief of your joy. It's a flywheel in the worst way. And what is a flywheel, by the way? $1 trillion business could never exist without a flywheel in place, right? So Amazon's not getting to 2.5 trillion market cap without a flywheel. And it's an insanely powerful business model, and they're all around you. So I don't know. There's my Zen thought, buddy. Connect, man. Connect.
So can you, like, the flywheel, can you go into that a bit and explain really what that is and sort of how it works?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, probably needs some explanation, right? Okay. Rather than use Amazon. Okay. So I use Amazon normally if I'm going to explain a flywheel, but let's do it in personal development, right? I always say be, do, have. You got to be first before you have, but most people try having before being, and think by having the car and having the house and having the family and having the kids and having the stuff will lead to being. So be, do, have frame. Okay, so flywheel. I want you to picture a clock, right? What do you think? Or no, what am I trying to say? What you think about, you become, right? So your thoughts lead to your actions. Your actions lead to your behaviors. Your behaviors lead to your outcomes, and your outcomes determine your lifestyle. And then your lifestyle determines your future, right? So let me try to paint you a mental picture, right? So picture a clock, and I want you to take your future and put it at 12 o'clock. Hang on, I got to think of how many. Okay, so maybe I got this. I'm going to do 2-hour increments, right? So your future is at 12 o'clock. Now go to 2 o'clock in your mind, or maybe you're writing this down, which would be a great idea. Your thoughts are at 2 o'clock. Your actions at 4 o'clock. Your behaviors, 6 o'clock. Your outcomes, 8 o'clock. What am I doing here? Your lifestyle, then at 10 o'clock. And then that, again, think of an arrow going towards 12 o'clock, which is your future, right? So the flywheel turns. So you got your future, you got your thoughts, you got your actions. Actually, let me word it. Your future, your thoughts lead to your actions, which lead to your behaviors at 6 o'clock, which lead to your outcomes at 8 o'clock, which lead to your lifestyle at 10 o'clock, which then goes back to your future at 12 o'clock. And then in a perfect world, it speeds up and expands, right? So when done improperly, though, the reason I refer to it as a clock is the clock goes counterclockwise and then eats itself, like most business models. The reason that they can't get to 1 million, they can't get to 10 million, they can't get to 100 million, and they definitely can't get to 1 billion, is that the model starts eating itself. And in some models, significantly earlier than others, right? But control your thoughts and you'll control your outcomes, and you'll control your future. That makes sense, Shoots. So I'm trying to exercise.
But let me, one sort of, I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into this a little bit for you. How does procrastination sort of play into this, especially for business owners?
Oh, that very well. And again, I don't need to meet your coaching client to know that there's a really high probability that they battle with procrastination. So the science behind procrastination, it stems from depression, right? Or maybe a softer way, a depressive state, right? It is a depressed state is the worst state to be in. You're an entrepreneur or highly motivated and trying to accomplish something like getting an excellent job, becoming a great tennis player, making the hockey team, winning the football championship, right? And by the way, it works on the flip side. If you stop procrastinating and take action, often you will find that oppressive moods melt away, right? But to the procrastinator, I would say this again. Just want to give you a frame. You are not lazy. You're lost. Or maybe I want to speak directly to your coaching client. Your coaching client is not lazy. They're lost. And the good and bad news of that is money loves speed. Well, if you're procrastinating, I don't need to see your bank balance to know that it is nothing near what you desire, nor where it probably should be, right? So, because why? Most people ready, fire, aim, right? That's successful people. Ready, fire, aim. And then the unsuccessful, what do? They stay in aim constantly and then never actually pull the trigger, right? Like Warren Buffett will say, Shoots. Buffett says he makes 100% of his decision with 60% of the info, right? Translation, that's the exact opposite of procrastination. He makes decisions quicker, and think of a flywheel. It turns, it expands. And if he makes the wrong decision, he can just reverse course quickly and, go backwards a little bit. But he doesn't, by not making the decision, that's just not the right frame for Buffett. That's why 60% of the info, 100% of the decision. So hang on. So flywheel. So let's use procrastination. So I put procrastinate at 12 o'clock, right? And then I would say, what would somebody do that's procrastinating? And I would dare say they feel anxiety and maybe a little bit of panic. Okay. So I would put anxiety and panic at 3 o'clock. And then what happens when you're anxious and you're panicked, you feel guilty. So I would take the word guilty and I would put that at 6 o'clock. And then what do? They've got to justify their behavior. So at 9 o'clock, they make excuses. And if I draw that into a clock, just think, how many were there? 1, 2, 3. So 12 o'clock is procrastinate. 3 o'clock is panic/anxiety. 6 o'clock is feel guilty. 9 o'clock is make excuses. And then procrastination, an arrow back towards, you got to make sure you're putting arrows around this clock, right? Well, that, though making excuses, what does that do? That makes them procrastinate more. What does it do? It speeds up and it expands, only in a horrific way. And if you were to take Amazon, and put them in a flywheel, which frankly, I start a lot of my presentations giving the Amazon flywheel, because to say that this is important, these flywheels are all around you, but you don't think, what most people do is they think of a sales funnel as an example, right? Well, sales funnel by nature, somebody falls out the bottom, right? And by the way, I don't think it should be called a funnel. It should be called a series of cliffs, whereby they put in their email or they don't. They put their phone number in or they don't. Did I say give you the email or they don't? They show up on the call or they don't. They book the follow-up call or they don't. They show up to that call or they don't. They say yes or they don't. They give you the credit card or they don't. right? So you see, it's like a series of cliffs is a far better way of demonstrating a funnel than just as though the water just slips down, right? So Amazon, so hang on, let me describe Amazon's flywheel. Okay, so again, I start a lot of presentations with this because again, it's just so powerful. So they have selection. The North Star for Amazon has always been selection. Okay, so it's not profits, it's not revenue, it's not customers, it's selection. Okay, why is that? Well, at 3:00, they've got customer experience. And you tell me, if you go to find a particular item and it's there and you can find it quickly and the exact thing you're looking for, what does that do to the customer experience? I dare say it elevates it, right? So you got customer experience at 3. And then let's say that, example I give, like my daughter loves these things called American dolls. She's growing out of them, by the way, right now. So she'd probably kill me knowing I'm giving that example. But like she loves these American dolls. Think of new age Barbies. Well, the Barbies, the American dolls come with cars and they come with houses and different outfits. So my wife, rather than jumping in the car, driving to Toys R Us, fighting traffic, finding parking, paying for parking, going into the store, trying to find the thing amongst a very large store and not being able to get, anybody to help her. So she's got to find it on her own. What kind of a customer experience is that? I think you probably agree, not so great, right? So remember, selection at 12:00, customer experience at 3. My wife goes and she buys the American doll, the specific one, Diana, brunette hair, blue jeans, etc. Well, when my daughter says, okay, I want a house and I want a car, where do you think my wife's going to go? And I would say she's not going to jump in the car and drive to Toys R Us and take a flyer on whether the car and the house are available. She would go back to Amazon. What does that do? It increases the traffic. It increases the repeat buyers. So at 6:00, you've got traffic. And then, of course, at 9:00, they always talk, like, I'm not selling on Amazon. I'm not selling on Amazon. I'm not selling on Amazon. Can't stand Jeff Bezos, etc. They're ruining the retail experience and they're ruining this and ruining that. And then what happens is they're losing market share. And they go, my gosh, I've got to be there. That's more at 9:00. It's more sellers. And then 9:00 with an arrow to 12:00. What does that do to selection? It elevates it. Okay. So again, to be clear, selection 12:00, customer experience 3:00, traffic 6:00, more sellers and distributors at 9:00, and then with an arrow to increased selection, right? So the result, and if you've read the letters to shareholders by Jeff Bezos, I think they started in 1997, rather than reading, again, said this last week, but I could say it every week, rather than reading the next great influential book, read Jeff Bezos's letters to shareholders and see how the business unfolded over many years. And again, built it to a $2.5 trillion market cap. I think would be a good idea. So again, what he said, translation in those letters to shareholders, he talked about how he was going to sell everything, right? So the book about Amazon became the everything store. Anywho, shoots, I hope that the painting that picture is making sense. Train yourself and train your clients to, rather than think in funnels, but think in flywheels and growth loops, in feedback loops. And I think you'd be tremendously advantaged, tremendously. And it may take a little what I'm talking about. You might know it better than I. This might be totally new to you. But what I will tell you, as you get, your reticular activating system, you start looking for red Mazdas because you just bought one and magically you see them everywhere. I think you'll start to see flywheels, feedback loops, and growth loops all over the place when you start to look, both in good and bad. Remember, procrastination is going in the wrong direction. Personal development, improving your thoughts and your behaviors and your actions, etc., in a really good way. So shoots, how'd I do? That you like that? That makes sense?
Yeah, you kind of got me thinking here a little bit, because obviously, when you say don't think funnel, think flywheel, the flywheel is more the complete business. And if you do that, you will have continued growth and sort of acceleration to that desired result. Whereas the reality is the funnel is perhaps one aspect within the flywheel.
Yes. Well, Yes, I'll agree with that. Absolutely. But I think that most people treat it as though it's the thing. You know what I mean? It's like it's this and Russell Brunson, and God bless him, done an amazing job of, owning that terminology, the marketing funnel, the funnel. But again, it's a very limited. So I would be encouraging anybody to be thinking in flywheels, recognizing them. And again, and they expand and they speed up. You could never build a $1 trillion company without a flywheel. Would not. The end.
Well, yeah, because you talk about, like, if we back that out for a second, right? Like, I'm looking at when you said customer experience, so selection, experience, traffic, seller. Like, if you just look at it and go, well, if you've got the traffic and you've got the clients coming in, but you don't have the experience center, the fulfillment, then it's a broken system, right? Like, it's not a business. You can't. So that's the part that's, I think, people are missing.
I'm most impressed with the fact you wrote that down.
It is good. No, it's good. It's good. I really enjoy the just from the personal development one. I think that's that. Like, and I did write this down. So, like, I just want to repeat this because I think it's so damn good. Thoughts lead to actions, which lead to behaviors, which lead to outcomes. And I think that's where most people would stop. But that your outcomes will then determine your lifestyle, which then your lifestyle will determine your future. Like, I think people are kind of going halfway. Don't you think?
Your goal, like, again, most people, yes. Okay. Most people, what do? What do they want? They want to be rich. They want to be wealthy. But the reality is, what you really want is an amazing life. And how do you create amazing life? You create a massive future. That's Ben Hardy 101, by the way. 10x is easier than 2x. In fact, Dan Sullivan says, if you want to make your present better, make your future bigger. So again, you've got, look, if somebody, Tony Robbins 101, a buddy of mine won a big award. He got to, meet one-to-one with Tony Robbins and ask him any question he wanted. His father had stage 4 cancer. And he said, so my dad's got stage 4 cancer. What's the best advice you could give me? He basically, one of the first things out of his mouth, and is his opinion, the most important, is he needs to have a compelling future. He needs to have something to live for. His kids, his grandkids, the wedding, the next grandkid, etc. And I'm like, oh, that was just, and that's future, right? So that's 12 o'clock. So yes, absolutely. So people, they want to be rich and wealthy, but rich to one and rich to another. The truth is that we're already rich. If you live in North America, if you live in the Western world, you are already rich, right? Like, people all over the world are living on, the equivalent of like $1 a day, even less than that, right? So you're already rich. So when it's Tony Robbins, so you say, oh, I want more money, and it gives you 10 cents and you got your goal. The problem, the goal sucks, right? It's like the average business owner. I want to hit 7 figures. It's a stupid goal because you could hit 7 figures and lose money. You could hit 7 figures and make a small amount of money, but be insanely vulnerable because of the staff and the clients and the potential of a client going bankrupt, a bad debt. So you're absolutely right. They go halfway, and this is where the flywheel comes in. Your future, and then you've got, thoughts, actions, behaviors, outcomes, lifestyle, and then that has an arrow towards your future, and it expands and it speeds up. So it's Tom Brady 101. What happens to the average athlete? They retire and then get depressed. Why? Because they know they're never going to accomplish something as cool as they did in the past. What did Brady do? The GOAT? Because of his mindset. Nobody told him maybe somebody told him to do this, but I'm going to say it was totally instinctual. Well, he was just, color commentating the Super Bowl, right? Getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars with, to sign the contract. That's probably got to feel pretty cool, despite how much money you have. By the way, I think Tony Romo should have done it, but I'll leave that. Although I love Tom Brady. And then, I think he bought the Raiders, right? So what he's doing is making sure that his future is bigger than his past. He knows that he accomplished so much. He's going to get depressed if he doesn't have something big and awesome and audacious to work towards. Yes, Shoots, what you said is so profound, and I hope everybody takes it away. Most people stop halfway. And where do they stop? At, I want to get rich. And then they don't even define rich. So rich is just some stupid, it's, you know what I mean? It doesn't even, because they already are rich, right? But they're not enjoying it. Remember, you give somebody, by the way, you give somebody, you take somebody who is not rich, quote unquote, and make them financially rich. They just become more of who they are. If they're super generous, they're more generous. If they're super greedy, they become more greedy. So anyways, I hope everybody's following.
What is it like Gary Vee said? He goes, I know a lot of people that have a lot of money, but I know people that are quite rich that are working the 9 to 5 and are happy taking their 2 vacations a year. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. And they get to go home and have no bloody worries, right? Look, again, I'll just tell you, and I just, the richest people that you know are very often the unhappiest people that you know. Okay. And again, I watched that documentary on the DJ Vinci or something.
Yep.
I Am Tim. And, the kid, he's like 20, he wasn't even 30 and he killed himself. It makes no sense. Robin Williams, on the surface, he's got everything, the riches, the fame, the attention. Imagine that guy went out to dinner and it's like, the adulation that he would get. You know what I mean? Would just be insane. And he killed himself, which, by the way, I think he had a pretty serious illness. But no doubt, look, again, people with all kinds of money are significantly more depressed on average than you would like to think. So again, and what that flywheel. So the solution, we got to make sure again, is that's the problem. What's the solution? And it's create a massive future for yourself. And then, by the way, create a massive future for your coaching clients, significantly better than they could come up with on their own. And left to their own devices, they're trying to become rich and they're already there. So it doesn't work. And they wonder why, it's, their flywheels working in a counterclockwise direction. So powerful, in my opinion, bud.
Which, by the way, I don't know why you talked about depression. So I just thought of the Jim Carrey quote where he said, depression is your avatar telling you it's tired of being the character you're trying to play.
Oh, say that again.
Depression is your avatar telling you it's tired of being the character that you're trying to play.
Oh, well, there you go. The avatar. That's new age. That's a new quote. If he's using avatar, that's cool. I like it.
And speaking of when you say think future, there's a 3-year vision, there's the 5-year vision, there's the is there what is it, dude? Like what is it? What
25-year, 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 1 year, 9-month, 6-month, 3-month, 1 month, 3-week, 2-week, 1 week. But they all have to coalesce, right? So you got to start with the 25-year vision and work backwards.
There you go.
And by the way, I would imagine in 25 years, you'd like to touch your toes. Now, actually, here's something. Okay, this is good. Like, if you're unhappy with your body, you're going to be unhappy with your business. So when you go to the gym consistently, anybody who knows like the life wheel, right? Where you got your finances, you got your career, you got your health, your relationships, blah, 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 blah. You go to the gym consistently. And I've been, hitting the weights and, blah, 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 blah. And I tell you, it's a net positive, not just in my physical health, but just in everything. It's remarkable how simple it is.
You've been hitting the weights?
Shoots. You should see me, bud. Arms are back, baby.
All right. Okay. I look forward to it. It's the number one thing. Always working out, everybody with KB, safety first. Like this is how it works. Safety first. Don't get hurt. Never get hurt. All right. Switching gears. I want to go back to a question that we actually got. So he was talking about a client sold his company and is looking for his next big thing. And he wants to go into a new business and wants to build just something that they can actually exit from. So obviously there's a bit of a timeline in there. And they're looking for any sort of industry or industries that you would recommend or are possibly looking at right now is that could be some great opportunities.
Okay. Okay. So this is somebody with experience. Always got to start little red arrow. You are here. Start at the starting, in order to get to the finish, we must start at the start. So, because again, if you were to ask me, this guy was, brand spanking new, I'd give a different answer. So if he can choose, and it appears he can, what's the best frame? And I would say this: big margins, big market, big multiple, right? Big margins, big market, big multiple. And like, why is business coaching so attractive? Nobody ever talks about this. Any webinar that I run, I try to drop this. The reason is big margins, like 80, 90%, right? But by the way, it doesn't have big multiples, right? So a great way to earn some great money with big margins and have an amazing lifestyle and very little to manage by way of staff, etc. So, you get your 15 clients and maybe you've got an assistant, right? And an assistant, by the way, who could live overseas and get paid not a lot. But if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant, importantly. And by the way, you can build a big multiple in coaching if you build a big team of business coaches under you using something like a licensing model, right? Like, just example, shameless plug maybe, but at focus.com, we've got coaches with 25, 50, 75 coaches, working to a team of 100 coaches underneath them, right? That's a sellable asset with big margins, a big market, and big multiples. And again, those individuals doing no one-to-one coaching, but farming that stuff off. So coaching, you don't get the multiple, but if you build a team of coaches, you can build yourself an asset, right? But would I recommend to this guy like a restaurant or an apparel type business? And I'm saying those because those are the first two that I think of when somebody's looking at starting a company. You'll hear those consistently. And the answer would be no. And the reason would be like pretty sad multiples, unless you get big. The bigger the company gets, the higher the multiple, because again, it's more predictable, more sustainable, right? And then, by the way, what are some examples of bad multiple businesses? And that would be stuff like, think commercial printing, construction. I know I spoke to we got a client, she's a computer retailer, again, just told her you're just not, a computer retailer is not going to get a good multiple. So again, they have low multiples on exit, and that's not the frame that I'd be giving this guy. Remember, big margins, big market, big multiple. And then which ones have high is probably the next question, which would make sense. Not an expert in this area. Like, small amount of research would find you this very easily, but like solar as an example, like, is there going to be more solar in the future or less solar in the future? Answers more. Is it pretty sexy and pretty attractive to, have your utility bill or maybe eliminate it completely? Answers yes, right? So it kind of becomes money to discount, found money. So that would be an example. And I could also tell you, like, an advertising company. I just bought a small advertising company, a piece of a small advertising company. And I was pretty surprised when I looked it up, but they get 10 to 15x multiples. And then on the flip side of that, like an airline, which when I was looking at that, I was comparing it to some stuff, and airline came up because it's just like, I think if I told you owned an airline, you'd probably get pretty excited. And I think instinctively you'd think, wow, that would be a huge multiple. And the answer is hard no. Like, you're looking at like a 5x, a 5 to 10x multiple, right? And I think that sounds counterintuitive to what you would have thought. An accounting firm, that's, call it 8. And again, just varying, where are you, the market, the country, how, the size of it. Again, the bigger the accounting firm, the higher the multiple. The smaller the accounting firm, the smaller the multiple. Why? More predictable, more sustainable. So they get like an 8x return. SaaS company, all day long and twice on Sunday. So, I built a SaaS company, but it comes with that. It's not for the faint of heart. You got to have some money and some access to some money, or some money yourself and some commitment. Anti-aging solutions, again, is there an aging population? The answer is yes. Is that going to get bigger? Is that going to get smaller? It's going to get bigger. Is it going to become more attractive? Are those people getting younger all of a sudden? No. So again, anti-aging solutions, high multiples. But the bottom line, I'm advising a guy who's been successful in business and just had an exit. So translation, little red arrow, you are here. He knows what he's doing. I'd be explaining to him before I went into it. I wouldn't just, I don't want to hear what he's passionate about, right? Although I do, but that's not where we're suddenly going to go, right? Like I used to own a hockey rink and I love hockey. You'll struggle to find somebody that loves hockey more than I do. And I got to tell you, I was sick of going to the place, right? If I never had to put my shoes on or my skates on ever again at one point, I would have been a happy man. Right. But so big margins, big market, big multiple, and your passions. But remember, you got to fall in love with what you do, right? Fall in love with the marketing, fall in love with the clients, fall in love with the deliverable, fall in love with the software, fall in love with the thing, as opposed to like Michael Jordan fell in love with training as opposed to basketball, right? By the way, I should answer this because I'm talking multiple. So what are the 5 core things that go into a multiple? 5 things: predictability. You want to, look obvious. Sustainability, growth opportunities, threats, and then scalability, right? Remember, scale is when revenues go up and expenses stay relatively the same. Growth is when revenues go up and the expenses come with you, right? And sure, there can be a gap and they become more profitable over time, but as they grow, the expenses come with them, right? Like a mobile dog wash, which I often talk about, is a model that, one guy's going in the dentist and then I would go into mobile dog washing, which most people would laugh, but I got to tell you that I would have 300 clients and he would be lucky to have 30 generally with dentists, right? So I would go to dog lovers and help them start a mobile dog wash, right? But a mobile dog wash is never going to scale, I can tell you this, unless they franchise. But understand, when the mobile dog wash franchises, it now completely changed the business model whereby it's franchising play instead of a mobile dog wash play, right? So if you franchised it, that would become scalable. But they're leveling up their business model. Translation. But importantly, it's big margins, big market, big multiple is what I'm trying to say.
Kit, I don't want to drag this episode on too long, but I think you've really hit on something that I want to close the loop on for people, because you talk about the concept of creating multiples, right? Can you just explain how multiple is established? I think that's a very important point to sort of close on.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah. Industry goes up, like I said, solar, just by nature of the industry that you're in, anti-aging, the industry that you're in, you'll get it's more attractive. Just imagine if you're an investor, right? You want to go into things that are more sustainable, more predictable, more growth opportunities and less threats, right? So industry and EBITDA as well, obviously, fancy way of saying profit, there's nuances there, but fundamentally it's profitability. High on the priority list. Look, and again, not an expert in this area, but there's some key things that go into it, like profit margins. Absolutely. Remember, there's 3 rules or three rules of real estate. Location. I don't know. Is it rules or whatever it is? So 3 rules of business, what I've said on many master classes that I've run: margin, right? So profit margins, key employee turnover, size of the available market. Absolutely. Competence of staff required to operate it. Again, so you hiring people, like an engineering play is, you know what I mean? Do you want to own an engineering company, and do you want to surround yourself with engineers? And do you want to pay engineers to do your deliverable? And I would dare say, if you were a venture capitalist, you would say the answer to that is likely a no. But of course, there are nuances, right? So McDonald's is very attractive. Why? Because it's highly systematized and you can hire 16-year-olds. Well, I like that idea. And the 16-year-old quits and we just get another 16-year-old. And our 16-year-olds in short supply looking for a job. By the way, they might be a little more short supply nowadays, but anyway. So the competence of the staff, recurring revenue all day long. Again, we always make fun of realtors on the show, and not that there's anything going into becoming a realtor. God bless you, go for it. But there's no recurring revenue, so there's not a chance in heck that I would ever subject myself to that. And just on, I know the numbers are sexy. And if you sell a big house, that's great. But at the end of the day, there's no recurring revenue for the most part. So I'd never do it. It's all built on referrals. Revenue growth over the last 12 months, very important. Again, if it's all of a sudden trending in the wrong direction and you're trying to sell, this would be a red flag. If Warren Buffett was speaking, he would have competitive advantage, okay, like a moat, right? So, do they have a moat? And if you don't have a moat, like the moat of Coca-Cola is their distribution mechanism, right? So it's not about Coke. It's about so much more than Coke, right? Because look, if you come up with a new soft drink and you want to get it into 7-Eleven, the problem is shelf space, because there's a finite amount of shelf space and they're not making any more at the 7-Eleven unless they're doing a wild renovation. And we know that's not happening anytime soon. So the fact that Coke is already there, and then they've got the water and they got their equivalent of Red Bull, and they've got, Sprite and whatever else they got, right? But their distribution model in the trucks is really the moat. So they've got a competitive advantage, which is distribution. Anyway, so they have a moat, and you don't need one as impressive as Coke, obviously, but understanding what that is. But if they don't have a competitive advantage, I got to tell you, Warren Buffett ain't investing. It's that simple. Customer concentration. So do you got one client that's 50% of the revenues? No, thank you. In the accounting world, they call that concentration risk, right? Staff concentration. Do you have one staff member that's significantly too responsible for a lot of stuff? Or, by the way, probably more obvious one is too much reliance on the owner. This would be a red flag when I came in to buy, right? Strength and longevity of the management team would also come into it. Look, there's some other stuff that would go into it, shoots, but that's a good start. When choosing / helping your clients get going in a great industry, right? With translation, with growth that is trending, anti-aging. I don't care how good or bad you are at it, the industry is going to carry you forward. It's like surfing, right? I'm not a good surfer, but I can stand up on a surfboard and, turn a little bit. But you give me a really good wave and I actually I look like I know what I'm doing. You give me a bad wave and I look like the novice that I am, right? So a big wave of anti-aging can make your client look really good, like this guy that we talked about specifically. Anti-aging, again, is it going to slow down? The wave of the industry can bring you forward. So big margins, big market, big multiple shoots. That's my answer. What do you think?
Okay, and then real quick, if we have to close out, what's the one thing, which is going to be hard? There was so much good here today. What's one thing, if you had to pick from today's episode?
Shoots, it's got to be what we talked about there, the flywheel. You've got your future, and then you got your thoughts, which lead to your actions, which lead to your behaviors, which lead to your outcomes, which lead to your lifestyle, which leads to your future. And again, if you do it right, it expands, it speeds up. And by the way, and I'm speaking to you, but through you, to the chiropractor, the dentist, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, road dog, you nailed it. I didn't think of it that, positioned like that, framed like that, but like they basically stop halfway, right? And why do they stop halfway? Because again, their goal is to become rich, not even wealthy. Their goal is they're trying to get big so they can get rich, right? Unfortunately, that's not how the story ends with ridiculous predictability. They get big and what? Fall over. Why? Because they built something big and vulnerable. And a longer conversation would be that they didn't protect their margins on the way up, and they fall over. So yeah, you want to have that big, profitable, amazing future, and that's what your clients want. So I think that the flywheel should think, and then I want everybody to try and translate that. Like you gave me procrastination, and then I'm like, okay, so like you got, what would you have? You had procrastinate, panic / anxiety. And then that individual would feel guilty, and then they would make excuses to justify it, and then it would go back to more procrastination. So it speeds up and expands. So it goes counterclockwise in the wrong direction, and that's why that's why divorces happen. That's why I'm thinking of Antonio Brown when he was playing under Brady. He was playing with Brady there, and he walked off the field, and it just snowballed on him, right? It snowballed. And again, despite he knew what he was doing was absolutely asinine. But you've seen this with all kinds of professional athletes, right? Again, they accomplish more than they ever thought possible, and they don't have a bigger future for themselves. They don't do what Brady did. And he, the guy had won 6 Super Bowls. He could have retired and still been the GOAT. What did he do? He packed up his bags, moved to Tampa Bay, and won a Super Bowl there. Well, he saw that, and you know what I mean? Like he laid that out for himself. You know what I mean? That I don't think many people thought that Brady was going to win a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. You know who did? Tom Brady, right? And by the way, if he would have failed and not won the Super Bowl, it wouldn't, I dare, you know what I mean? It wouldn't have dampened his spirits in any way, shape, or form. And that's Michael Jordan, that's Serena Williams, and that's Oprah, and that's Michael Schumacher, Roger Federer, and the list goes on. So that's my answer, Shoots. What do you think? Flywheel, bud.
I'm just going to say as well, on the positive flywheel, people stop halfway and then they're surprised that they give up so easily. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, because they don't. Okay, the domino. Okay, so now I've been writing this in my emails lately, but so the domino that knocks over all the domino is the purpose, having something meaningful. If you don't have anything meaningful, the speed bump will stop you. If you've got a massive purpose, the speed bump, you barely feel it and you just keep going, right? So it's literally a speed bump. It's like bump, and then you're on the other side of it and you speed the hell up. So there you go.
Love that.
Purpose is that's straight out of, I believe, Think and Grow Rich. It might be that book. It might be one of the other all-time greats along those lines, but it's like purpose, definitive of purpose is the domino that knocks over all the other needs to become genuinely successful. So there you go.
Not to drag this on a little further, I think I saw just a clip from Jordan Peterson talking to, I think it's Sean Ryan, the other guy that's got the podcast. And he's a former Marine and everything. And he just said, like, who in their right mind would ever want to do that? Like, the amount of pain, they're basically trying to drown you and everything else at buds and all that stuff. And he's like, because I want to serve my country. Well, why'd you want to do that? And then he went into the whole, well, there you go, right? And how do you feel about it? Because you went through all of that suffering for your purpose. And it's how was you at the end? You feel amazing.
He's right. You'll see somebody who's done a tour and lost the leg, lost 2 legs, lost an arm, and you see it in the interviews. And this is not always by any stretch, right? But many of them, they're like, it was worth it. I was there fighting for my company, and my country, and that's what I was destined to do.
Yeah, and so there you go. Purpose is not to be taken lightly. Let's put it that way. So.
The domino
right.
shoots.
We will end it there, but thanks everybody for tuning into another episode of Business Coaching Secrets, and in my personal humble opinion, probably the best one yet. I'm just going to leave that one right there for you guys to.
Yes, boom.
There it is. But hey, listen, if you're not on the inside and you're not getting access to the pre-show, or you aren't getting Karl's daily emails, you want to learn more about how to grow and build and scale your coaching company, visit focused.com. and subscribe today. And again, if you enjoyed the podcast, please like and subscribe, and also share with fellow coaches, as we are trying to make our impact on as many coaches as possible. And while you're at it, please feel free to leave a review. Well, that is it for another week. And remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.